Hi guys, today I wanted to do a video with Gus here. One thing that his owner said to me is that she was having a hard time teaching him to pick up his feet, and that she could get him to pick them up, but he would want to put them down right away. So one thing that I've noticed is when you ask him to pick his feet up, he goes into a position of putting his head down to the ground and almost going to fall over or drop to the ground. So I've been around enough horses now that I've seen this pattern show up a lot in horses that have had their legs tied up and then had stuff done to them, whether that's being got on, whether that's being dropped to the ground, maybe being sacked out. It's a bit of an older school way of doing things, but what it essentially does is it shuts the horse down, or if we're talking about that survival brain, then they go into that place of freeze and then sometimes collapse, where we see them literally fall to the ground. We get the dissociation and learned helplessness. So I think we have a little bit of that going on. So what I wanted to do is just start off by showing you sort of what happens when I go to pick up his feet. And then I'm going to have a little bit of a play with what I'm thinking might help him in releasing some of this tension and trauma that is trapped in his nervous system. Are you having a good old release over there, hey? We just had the Atlas on for a few minutes before, so I think he might be releasing some of that. Okay. Hi, Gus. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reach down and kind of show you the pattern of what happens. So the head goes down to the ground, and then he kind of starts to think about dropping to the ground. Hey. So I did a little bit of this work with him yesterday. So that was actually better than what it has been. Although I am sort of rushing through and just picking up the leg to show what happens. Let's do it on this side. Reach down the leg. Head goes to the ground. And we don't actually have any of the dropping to the ground today, but sorry, I should reframe that. He hasn't actually dropped to the ground, but he gets all unbalanced and like he's going to fall over. So maybe if I had held his leg for longer, he might have in fact dropped to the ground. So what I want to do is if you've followed a bit of my stuff before, you might have heard me talk about the mind-body work. So what I want to do is, because he is in that freeze place, I want to give him back some agency of his body and show him that there are other ways of responding and reacting and then responding. So because he's in freeze, I really want to show him that flight is an option. So if we're following the mind-body work, placing my hand on and looking for, actually we'll just get moving to start with, but you can see that head comes down, but let's find movement, and then I'm going to take my hand off and step away. because we got movement. Good boy. And then I'm just going to give him some space to process. So my thoughts are that if I can show him that flight is an option, then he has freedom in his mind and his body. Then picking up his feet will come as a result of freedom, not of force. I had a discussion this morning with my partner, and he said, "Why don't you just clicker train him to pick his feet up?" And I said, I could do that, but what I'm curious about is whether that would just teach him a trick on top of trauma. So I'm not actually addressing the fact that we have this trauma in there and that he's in a freeze state, and maybe one day that will come bubbling to the surface. Or we'll always feel a little bit of resistance in there, or a little bit of anxiety, or a little bit of shutdown. So, what I would rather explore is giving him some agency back over his body, and then as a result, we are able to pick up feet and do all of the other things. Hey, so you had a nice lick and a chew there. Looking for, well, I guess before, not putting any agenda on him to do anything, but just giving him space and holding a space for him to do whatever he needs to do, and then just observing. So seeing what his breath is like, what is his body language like, what are his eyes like, his ears like, watching to see his mouth and his jaw and his whiskers doing little quivers, and just observing the whole picture and the context, and trying not to label it or thinking that this comes next sort of thing, but just really being in the moment, and trusting your gut as well of what to do next. So yesterday, when I did this, it was only for a moment, and I actually did film it, but for some reason my voice didn't come up on it, so that was a shame. So I thought I would refilm it today, but I didn't actually spend long on it. Good boy. And engaging. So I'm taking that as let's have another little play. My feeling is that I don't want to spend too long on it because I don't want to overwhelm his nervous system. Some releases there. Can we find movement? That head goes to the ground. Good boy. And I'm going to release. Step away. Give him some space. Good boy. And again, just being here in the moment. not attaching a story. Having no judgments over myself or the horse. Not having any expectations. And what I like to do when I'm in these moments of holding a space to make sure that my mind doesn't take off somewhere else, is just being aware. So if I notice my mind start to think about something else, then it's just that gently bringing it back into the present moment. And maybe that is to hear what is happening around me in this moment. What is a noise that I can hear that's close? A noise that I can hear that's far away? Maybe it's feeling the air on my skin. Maybe it's just witnessing my breath. Or maybe it's just observing the horse in each moment. Hmm. It was interesting because just before I kind of felt this perhaps a judgment rise up of should I do something now? I feel like I should do something now. I don't know if I should do something now. What if it's the wrong thing to do right now? So what I try to do then is just kind of like acknowledge that I'm having that thought. And I feel it sort of show up in my tummy. So then the same thing I guess, for the horse, just holding a space for that to exist and not having to react to it, not having to do something about it, but just being curious about it. And then I think that what comes from that is then a thought of knowing when to do the next thing will come because it feels right, not from a place of judgment or worry or anxiety. It'll just come because it feels right to move into. So then I guess my answer for myself is just to wait. It's really nice when you have those moments where you're so present. I felt just then it was just Gus looking over at me that kind of like pulled me out of it. But you know, when you're so present that you forget about being present and being mindful because you just are. Hey, sweetheart. You're a good boy. Let's come to your back leg. Good boy. It's so interesting. I'm fascinated watching the licking and chewing and swallowing, shifting of his weight. I think that some people might be worried perhaps that you're teaching them, um, maybe to walk off or to not have their feet picked up. But in my mind, that, we earn to be able to pick up their feet or to ask something of their body. And in my mind, that comes from the freedom of being able to move, and being able to feel safe in our presence and trust us, rather than it coming from dominance, and force, or using gadgets and bits and pieces to achieve that. Hey, Gus. Hi. Shall we come around? And we might come over here a little ways, eh? So we don't end up crashing. Good boy. Hi. Hi. Good boy. So let's do the same with this. Looking for where there's a change, where we're on the edge of that threshold. Good boy. And then showing him that he can move, that he doesn't have to be in this mental prison. Thanks, sweetheart. There, good boy. So we could see there, when I touched his leg to begin with, his first thought that time was to move, which was really cool. I would far rather he thinks about moving his feet right now than to go into that place of head to the ground and learned helplessness. So I just stayed with him a little bit that time, and I felt drawn to go down to his fetlock, and then we saw it there as I touched on his fetlock. We kind of hit on that freeze place again, and I just helped him to find movement again. And as soon as he thought about movement, my hand left his body, and then stepped away, and now holding a space for him again. So I think that one day my hope would be that when we go to ask for if we can pick up a foot, is that he's engaged mentally and physically. He's present with us. He's not having to take his mind somewhere else because he feels safe and he feels like he has options. Hey. Good boy. What do you reckon? This is a better feel, eh? That head comes down, and then I'm just going to let him move away from my hand. Sometimes I find as well, if I'm too intent looking towards them, it can help just to sort of bring my energy down and away, and give them some space, especially if they are quite stoic types or they have been shut down. Just giving them a little bit of space to process can really help. It seems sometimes um, he'll go into this like trance like state, and then if I sort of like move and shift the focus a little bit, it will then trigger in him like to release. Like you just saw like him do a little bit of a shake there, or he'll lick or chew or yawn. It's really interesting. Alright, this foot. I won't get into the camera though. And I feel like there's a good place to finish. So I might follow along with this process while he's still with me. And I think it will just be a journey. It's not a fix it type of thing. So I'll give these tools to his owner as well, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Hey, rightio. Thank you for watching along. If you've made it this far, I think this work isn't fast and exciting, but I think that when you learn to find and see and be excited by and um, curious by all of the um, slow work and seeing the little things, it's just fascinating. So yeah, I hope that you can find something interesting in this to maybe have a play with yourself and your own horse. Hey Gus.